Hi, my name is Ashley Lee. I am a intern with the Fibroid Foundation, and I am here to share my fibroid story. Um, in September of 2022, I was diagnosed with fibroids through my regular yearly physical exam. Was at the doctor. During my exam, my physician at the time, she noticed that there was a hardening feeling in my abdomen area. And she didn't like the way that felt. She asked me, was I in pain? I was not in any pain. The only thing that I had noticed was that my cycles had started to go from 5 days to 7 days. Um, she told me that wasn't, anything to be really like concerned about because as women get older and just over the years, our cycles change. So that wasn't, like a red flag or anything like that. So I went off to have an ultrasound done, and the ultrasound came back showing that I did have fibroids. I was recommended to seek out a OBGYN who I could discuss my results with, to just talk about my options and to just talk about how to just manage fibroids and just what they were, because when I was diagnosed with fibroids, I didn't even know what fibroids were. I had heard about fibroids, but I didn't really have the education background about them like I do now. So a friend of mine, she recommended the OBGYN for me to go see. Made an appointment with her, and we reviewed my ultrasound results. And at that time, I do not remember the specific size, but they were not large. So she has suggested that we like wait and see. Like we had said that we were going to wait out a year just to see how things went, if they grew, if they remained the same. She educated me on what fibroids were, and in that time, I did my own research to learn what fibroids were as well. During this time where I'm waiting to see, I don't really know what I was waiting to see. I guess waiting to make sure that they didn't grow. I also noticed that my cycles were officially that 7 day now. It was no longer that 5 day cycle. It was a for sure 7 day cycle. And from discussions with my OBGYN, with my primary care physician, I was just told that wasn't like anything to be concerned about. But I had noticed a change. I had also noticed a change in the flow of my cycle as well. A year went by. So now we're in fall of 2023. And we did another ultrasound, and it showed that the fibroids had grew, and that they were like growing at a alarming rate. Like they were growing like really fast and were getting really big. And so that's when I had a discussion with my OBGYN about just what my plans were as far as to, whether or not I wanted to have children in the future, which I do. And so she, told me that I probably needed to have them removed and to seek out the different options. So I really, really appreciate her, because she wasn't one of those doctors who tried to force a hysterectomy on me or anything like that. We talked about all the options. We talked about what me and my husband's plans were to have children in the future. And she was very clear that, that was, preserving my fertility was at the top of the priority list. So because of the size of the fibroids, I had to have a myomectomy. And it couldn't be she suggested that I have a open abdominal myomectomy. And I was trying to figure out if I could have a laparoscopic myomectomy, or just, I don't know, just something that didn't involve me having to go into surgery and like be cut on. So I seeked out a second opinion, which I highly would recommend anyone that is going through a fibroid journey to, regardless if, you trust your doctor, always seek out a second opinion, maybe even a third opinion. And so I remember I had my surgery scheduled for, it was like February of 2024. And my mom was like, wait a minute, like, what's going on? And I was like, I have to have a surgery. And so I was telling her all the facts. She came to one of my doctor's appointments, and then she was like, I really want you to get a second opinion. And I was like, okay. So I researched and found another doctor, and I got a second opinion about my diagnosis. And the OBGYN who I got the second opinion from, she had actually recommended that I get an MRI, because I had never had an MRI done. I had only had an ultrasound done. So she suggested that I get an MRI. And so I went and had an MRI done, and the MRI really was able to just show how, because the fibroids were growing so large, how it was really distorting the shape of my uterus. And so she really like put a stamp on it for me and was basically like, we have to get these fibroids removed. Like, if fertility is important to you, if that's a priority for you, if family planning is a priority for you, we have to get these fibroids removed, like sooner than later. And so I went back to my OB/GYN, and I rescheduled my surgery. And so in May of 2024, I had an open abdominal myomectomy. And come to find out, it wasn't multiple fibroids. It was one large fibroid that was sitting at the top of my uterus and literally just distorting it. And if it would have gotten any larger, it would have caused other issues, such as, pushing up against other internal organs. And those were not, problems that those were not problems that I wanted to deal with. So I am just very, very happy that I had the open abdominal myomectomy. It's been life-changing. I feel like a completely, totally different person. What I thought was normal cycles, and what I was told was normal cycles and not anything to be concerned or worried about, I can now see that they were not normal for me. After I had my surgery to have my fibroid removed, my cycles went back to 5 days, really like 4 to 5 days. And the flow is so much lighter. I barely have cramps anymore. It's just been a total 360. And I'm so grateful that I went ahead and, got the surgery done. I'm grateful that I had a support system, both my husband and my mom, who were there for me the whole way through. I'm happy that I had, my mom in my corner telling me, really, hey, you need to get a second opinion. And my surgeon, my OBGYN, she is the one who also did my surgery. She told me the the day I had the surgery, after I had came out of after I had woke up from the surgery, she was like, Ashley, like everything went great. Like if you could have planned the most amazing surgery, this would have been it. During my surgery, uh it was scheduled for, I think, like a 2-hour block of time, and that's what it was. I wasn't, in the operating room for, a super long time. I had minimum bleeding during the surgery, because that's another thing that they tell you before you have your surgery. They have to tell you all of the risk to that surgery. And so I had that. It could be very you could have a lot of bleeding during that surgery, but I did not have a lot of bleeding during my surgery, and I'm just very thankful that I am now on the other side, and I am fibroid free. And I know women who have been diagnosed with fibroids. I know it's a lot that we deal with, physically as well as mentally and emotionally. And one of those things is they tell you that, that the fibroids might come back. And so I know that's something that's definitely been kind of running through my mind is, I really praying that these fibroids do not come back. So just really just trying to do everything that's within my power to prevent them from coming back, making sure that I'm living a healthy lifestyle. Sometimes things are out of our control, but just making sure that I'm living a healthy lifestyle, making sure I'm staying away from, excess sugars and all the things. But needless to say, I'm grateful that I am fibroid free, and I appreciate everyone that was in my corner. I am so grateful for the Fibroid Foundation. And yes, that is my story.
Welcome to Fibroid Awareness Month 2025. Thank you, Ashley, for kicking off our program, Is Your Period Normal?, by sharing your personal journey and the moment you realized your period wasn't as it should be. After her fibroid surgery, Ashley experienced a difficult shift. She didn't truly understand how problematic her periods had been until the fibroids were gone, making her cycle so much more manageable. Do you find yourself chatting about your period with your mom, sister, aunt, or girlfriends, looking for that sense of normalcy? Or maybe you're navigating this alone, dealing with symptoms that often go unnoticed or brushed aside. Today, we're diving into a common question that's on many minds. Is my period normal? I'm joined today by Dr. Sandra Brooks. Dr. Brooks is the Chief Executive Officer of the American Congress of Obstetrics and Gynecology, a Phi Beta Kappa and Alpha Omega Alpha graduate of Howard University College of Liberal Arts and Sciences and College of Medicine. Dr. Brooks completed her residency in obstetrics and gynecology at the Hospital of the University of Pennsylvania and her fellowship in gynecologic oncology at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. Dr. Brooks entered clinical practice at the University of Massachusetts, then accepted the role of director of the Division of Gynecologic Oncology at the University of Maryland, attaining the rank of full professor. In that time, she also completed an MBA in Medical Services Management at Johns Hopkins University. I don't know how she found time to do all of this. Transitioning to a physician executive role, Dr. Brooks developed and operationalized a multimodal prevention service line to engage communities in care at Norton Healthcare in Louisville, Kentucky. She then served as Chief Medical Officer at a multi-site federally qualified health network in southern New Jersey, and subsequently as the Chief Medical Officer and Women's Service Line Lead at St. Joseph's Women's and Children's Hospital. In these roles, Dr. Brooks accomplished major initiatives focused on patient safety and quality. And in early 2020, Dr. Brooks was recruited to an expanded role as Senior Vice President and Chief Medical Officer of Thomas Jefferson University Hospital's Center City Division in Philadelphia. In this role, she integrated into her administrative leadership her programmatic and research interests in creating better systems of care to promote health equity and quality. And while in that role, she also served as the inaugural Executive Vice President and Chief Community Health Officer and led the Jefferson Collaborative for Health Equity. Dr. Brooks was also deeply engaged in quality and safety initiatives and in the hospital's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Having assumed the role of CEO of ACOG in August of 2024, Dr. Brooks now leads a member organization of more than 60,000 healthcare professionals dedicated to the field of obstetrics and gynecology and to improving the lives of all people seeking obstetric and gynecologic care, their families, and communities. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Brooks, for this important discussion.
Well, thank you. It's really an honor to be here and on such an important topic.
Oh, the honor is ours. I always like to ask experienced gynecologic professionals, what led you to the field of obstetrics and gynecology?
Well, it's a field that really has so many opportunities to both connect with the individuals you're serving, as well as serve as a healer. And that's really was my primary motivation and to go into medicine is to from coming at it from the healing perspective. And uh, you know, it's a very diverse field. We have the opportunity to take care of people at the from a very adolescent to, very mature individuals towards the end of life. And throughout that time, you're able to, connect with people at perhaps sometimes the most joyous time in their life, and then sometimes some of the most critical. And I've been grateful to be able to practice in a variety of settings, but the through line is that you're able to develop and work with people to help them to be their healthiest selves. And for that, I've been forever grateful to have been able to be in this specialty.
That's really beautiful. And surprisingly, a word that I don't hear much when I ask that question is healer, to be a healer, um, which really deepens the mission of practicing, being a practicing physician. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, thank you.
When we met earlier this year, we had a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. And you expressed an interest in providing education on what is normal as it relates to a menstrual cycle. And I thought that that was such a great idea and a great way to anchor Fibroid Awareness Month this year. Why did you feel that this particular question was important?
Well, I think we're all busy, and a lot of times women and those individuals requiring OB/GYN care have multiple responsibilities. And it can sometimes something can happen over time where you're not really, if you're not keeping track of it, you may not realize that what a period which normally comes every 28 days and lasts between 2 and 6 or 7 days now is coming more frequently, and it's lasting longer, maybe it's heavier, and it is what is normal may differ for everybody, but it is true that there are certain medical conditions that can lead people to have abnormal bleeding. And so with that was highlighted, I think, with Ashley's story. It sounds as though what was going on with her, she had just adapted to as though it was normal and not realizing there was something going on with her that could be potentially addressed. And fortunately, we have a variety of ways of addressing some of these problems that can really start to interfere with people's lives. And so although fibroids are not cancerous, they certainly can cause a lot of symptoms and interfere with people's ability to be healthy and well.
That was absolutely the case with me as well. I knew I was bleeding heavily and I knew I was tolerating some pretty extreme periods, but I did not realize, I didn't understand the connection between the blood loss and my shallow breaths, that
Mm.
the anemia had taken hold and I wasn't breathing deeply. I didn't have the capacity to breathe deeply, and I didn't realize how low my hemoglobin was. And I think that may be the case with a lot of women. I met a woman recently at an event, and she said that she has to slowly bend over and stand up, and she's just adapted to it. Those were her exact words. And I asked her to put her hand beside mine, and I said, "See where my hand is pink? Yours is completely white." And she was blown away. And I said, "You just don't have enough blood. And this is something that you shouldn't have to adapt to. You really need to seek the care of a professional provider to help you deal with that." So,
Right. Oh my goodness, that is a very striking, and you're right. I mean, this is not something, it can happen very suddenly where people lose a lot of blood and require, have to go to the emergency room. But, more often, as you stated, is something that happens over time, and the body can compensate up to a point. And when it comes to the point where you're short of breath, your heart rate is high, and you're pale or not. And yes, women who have melanin can be pale. And when that's occurring, absolutely, hopefully well before time, which means that people need to have a trusted source, a place where they can go to ask questions, where they can feel confident that they will be listened to, and that, if a symptom is persisting, that they'll have some sort of investigation. A simple blood count would really have been really one of the things that would have been a start to finding out what was going on.
I thank you for that. It's very helpful, and I wish I had had that feedback when that was occurring with me. What actually did happen was that I went to a doctor's appointment and to see my OBGYN, and he asked me if I had driven to the appointment. And I thought that was such a strange question. And I asked him why he asked me that, and he said, "Because I'm afraid you might pass out behind the wheel." And
Mm.
that was the first time that I really understood the connection between heavy menstrual bleeding and my day-to-day activities, and how it might impact that. Um, so if a woman is not having a normal period, what action should she take?
Well, I think it's helpful, first of all, to perhaps keep a calendar or a diary or use an app to track what's happening. Anytime you're going to potentially see somebody about a problem, it's like, it's helpful to be as specific as you can be, right? So I'm having this issue. It occurs every, I bleed every 25 to 26 days, but it's extremely heavy. I have to change pads a certain amount of times, or tampons a certain amount of times. I bled through my clothes on certain occasions. I'm afraid to go out because I'm not sure what's going to happen. I experience a lot of pain that um, uh, doesn't resolve with Motrin. So being as descriptive as possible about what you're experiencing is really helpful. And the duration, the amount, how it impacts your daily activities, whether there's any pain associated with it. Just as you said, if you're experiencing other symptoms like shortness of breath or excessive cramping or pain, if it resolves with a type of treatment. So that's the first thing, is try to figure out for yourself, this seems abnormal. This doesn't seem like what I've experienced before. Let me write it down and see. Obviously, if you're in a very urgent situation, you get right to If you can't get a hold of your doctor, you go to an urgent care or an emergency room. But this is also one of those situations where, if at all possible, it's really important to try to establish care with a regular doctor. It's hard in today's environment to get the kind of attention for these types of problems in an emergency room setting. They're going to, listen to you and do some blood work, maybe do some x-rays or an ultrasound, but they're probably not going to be the ones to treat the problem unless you're having an extreme emergency. And so this is a time to establish contact with a person and with a provider, and try to make sure that you have some ability to communicate with one another, because it may take more than one visit to sort out, right? And I think that's but the important thing is that you have a source of care and that you're going to be in the process of developing a plan. Does that make sense?
It does. And you brought up another topic, which I don't think we've discussed that much, which is having a point of contact within the hospital where you seek care is incredibly important. And it's something that I do, but I don't say that much. And I think it's important. It's very important to have that advocate in the hospital that has treated you previously, and to have a relationship with an OBGYN. So thank you for,
Because they walk on the journey with you. And so if you do have you have abnormal, and first of all, most people who have fibroids, which are these smooth muscle tumors that occur in the uterus, they're very common. They don't always cause problems, but they can, depending on the size or where they're located, they can cause different types of problems. And one of the most common would be abnormal bleeding. And so if that's the case, then what to be done about it, like, depends on where you are in your stage of life and how much they're bothering you. And so, so this first start would be to check and see what they look like. And usually, typically, that's through an ultrasound. So that's usually the start.
that's very, very helpful. And another thing that came to mind for me was when I experienced heavy menstrual bleeding and low anemia in my 30s, my body could tolerate it a lot more than when I was in my 40s. And that may not be the case for everyone, but I just wanted to mention that to just let our listeners know that your body may not always react the same way to heavy menstrual bleeding if you're experiencing that, and to just always pay close attention, as you alluded to how your body is responding in the moment.
You're absolutely right, because people who have other problems, if they have a problem with their heart, or if they were already anemic because maybe they had a different kind of surgery, before, and now their blood count is already low, or they have a problem with high blood pressure and then suddenly lose a lot of blood, and that could potentially cause other issues or concerns. Fortunately, the vast majority of people, it's something that's not an emergency. And so they have time to seek care and, really think about what, if anything, they want to do to address it. And it might be, you know, going on a certain type of medication, or it might be a type of intervention through interventional radiology in the hospital or a surgery center, or it might be an operation.
Incredibly helpful. Thank you for that. My last question is, do you have a message for women who may be dismayed by recent policies that have seemingly deprioritized women's health and body autonomy?
Oh my goodness.
That's a big question.
A lot of what's going on is very distressing, but women are not half of the population, just over half of the population. So we can have a voice, and there are places where we have a voice, and it does start by becoming engaged and not taking these things for granted. And so I do think, to the extent that people can be involved in a form of advocacy locally, voting, being aware of what's going on in your environment, and connecting with people who also believe that women's health should be prioritized. At ACOG, we have a number of ways where people can get involved with is it could be as simple as being involved by responding to an action alert where we send our notes to Congress, right? Being aware that certain things are happening that, we want to weigh in on. I think the other piece is certainly trying to take care of your own health and helping others to connect. If you're fortunate to be, in a position where you're healthy and you're just, or you've gone through something and you want to make sure that you are sending the message, just as you're doing here today, that people do not have to live a life full of pain, discomfort, and heavy bleeding, that there are ways in which we can help improve quality of life. And that's through having, connecting with a trusted resource, and providers who really are there to help you. So I think it's a combination of things.
That's so helpful. Thank you so much, Dr. Brooks. This has just been a wonderful discussion, and you've provided so much great information that I'm sure our listeners will appreciate and be able to benefit from. And we thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you to all of our listeners as well. And happy Fibroid Awareness Month.
Well, thank you. Yes, let's just be aware and let's take action if we need to.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
You too. Thank you for joining us today for this important conversation. If you are facing a menstrual health challenge, you don't have to make the journey alone. We encourage you to reach out to us at fibroidfoundation.org. As part of our Fibroid Awareness Month series, Important Questions That Deserve Evidence-Based Answers, please join us on July 17th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Eastern as we answer the question, how do I interview my physician? We look forward to continuing to share powerful, informative, and enlightening conversations with you. Together, we are making a difference. Thank you and be well.